I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 7 p.m. It is November 19th, 2024. This is the Genoa Township Board of Zoning Appeals, and we are at the Genoa Township Hall, 5111 South Old 3C Highway, Westerville, Ohio, 43082. We have two agenda items tonight, BZA case 2024-13, which is an area variance at 5865 Ridgewood Avenue, and also BZA case 2024-14, which is also an area variance at 5378 Medallion Drive East. We have staff present, Susan Dorsch and Paul Benson, and I will call the roll. Ms. Yu?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. DeRose?
Here.
Mr. Christian?
Here.
And we have Paul Hansen and Mark Campanella that are absent. I'm going to read the following statement into the record. As is the adopted policy of the Board of Zoning Appeals, all applicants will be granted an opportunity to make their formal presentations. The audience will then be granted an opportunity to comment, followed by questions from the board. This policy was adopted by the Board of Zoning Appeals to provide for the orderly discussion of business scheduled for consideration. The chairperson may limit repetitive debate. The first thing that we need to do is review and approve the minutes from our meeting held September 24th, 2024. I'll give you a moment to look those over, and then I will entertain a motion to approve. Okay, if you guys,
Move that we approve the September 2024 minutes as presented.
Second.
okay, Mr. Phillips makes a motion, Ms. Yu makes a second. Any discussion, any amendments, anything, anyone? And all in favor of approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2024, signify by stating aye.
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 Any opposed? And any abstentions?
I abstain.
Abstain.
Okay. Mr. Christian and Mr. DeRose abstain. Okay, moving right along. I will open the public hearing at 7:03 for our first case, and it is Thomas J. and Lenore C. Button requesting approval of a variance to allow for an existing accessory structure, which is a fireplace, to remain within the required 10-foot side yard setback at 5865 Ridgewood Avenue, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, lot 2918 in the Highland Lakes North subdivision, currently zoned planned residential PRD, and this is BZA case 2024-13. And those that are appearing on this case, please stand and raise your hand and be sworn in. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, thank you. Be seated. The legal notice for this hearing was printed and published on November 6, 2024 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on October 28, 2024. An attempt to mail notice of the hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property was also made. We have introduced into evidence exhibits A through D, which includes the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, the application, and the staff report dated November 15th, 2024. And we will start with the staff report.
Do you want to invite, Chair, do you want to invite the,
I'm sorry?
want to invite the applicants to the table?
Sure, the applicants can come up either at the table or we'll get to you in a second though. I usually don't have you come up until it's time for you to present, but we can do that too. So,
Okay.
Staff.
Thank you, Mark. So as noted in the legal notice, the address of the property is 5865 Ridgewood Avenue. It is lot 2918 in Highland Lakes North, Section 3. It is in a planned residential zoning district. The plat for Highland Lakes North, Section 3 was recorded on February 16th, 1995. In March of 1997, zoning permit 97136 was issued for construction of the residence on the subject property. Zoning permit 97428 was issued for construction of a deck on October 3rd of 1997. And zoning permit 2016287 was issued for the installation of a stamped concrete patio, seat walls, and outdoor fireplace. And those were to be situated in the same location as the previously existing deck. No additional permits were found. Copies of those permits that we just listed are attached to your staff memo. On September 24th of this year, our office received a residential improvement application for construction of an accessory building to be constructed over the existing patio on the subject property. Zoning inspector Joe Schaefer was staff that was reviewing the submitted application. He contacted this applicant via email to clarify that the submitted plans showed a 19-foot plus stone fireplace, bar, wall along the western side of the proposed accessory building. He made this inquiry because the location of the patio and fireplace that was shown was different than the location on the site plan submitted for the previous zoning permit, which was the 2016-287. After several emails back and forth between the project designer, Megan Murphy, and Mr. Schaefer, and those emails are attached to the staff memo as well. The decision to submit the variance to allow the existing fireplace to remain in its current location was submitted to the township on October 16th, 2024. The issue is when the original permit was issued in 2016, the contractor at the time built the fireplace in a different location than they proposed, and where it was approved, and the location that they installed it is encroaching into the required 10-foot setback for an accessory structure. So that is why we're here. A couple items, since the fireplace is already existing, the applicant did submit the application for the correct zoning code section for the fireplace. But there's a couple things that may need to change during the course of the hearing. So if the fireplace is going to be attached to the building, then the code section's going to change to 1609.01 instead of 1609.02. So 1609.01 is for accessory buildings, and 1609.02 is accessory structures. So if the fireplace is freestanding, it remains an accessory structure. But if it gets attached to the building, then it becomes part of that accessory building. So the code section is going to change a little bit, but that all needs to be clarified tonight during the process. Let's see if I had anything else. And all the other thing, if the fireplace is freestanding, then another code section needs to be added, because the height of an accessory structure is a maximum of 12 feet, and they're requesting 19 feet. So that would be another section that would be added. If it's attached to the building, that one doesn't need to come into play because a building can go up to 22 feet. So when we get there, if it's not clear, we'll go over it again.
Oh, it's
So.
already not clear over here.
Well, after
I
the
thought it was
applicant's
10 I thought
presentation,
it was
it'll
10
be,
feet.
huh?
I thought the existing fireplace is 10 feet.
They want to increase it to 19 feet. So,
Make it taller.
correct, and we want to cover all those tonight, so they don't have to come back again.
But if we approve the variance for the building, that just subsumes the increase for the
They
chimney.
can do
Because you
that.
don't need the second one. But
Correct.
if we say no to the first one, they still want their chimney, we got to do a variance on the chimney.
Correct, so if it's attached to the building, you just need to change the section number slightly, but if it's not attached, then the height needs to be added. So,
All right, I got it.
I think that was,
Was that everything?
the only other thing that we had was our, kind of our standard request that if the board votes to approve the variance, that the statement's added that it's only for the project shown tonight, and it does not include any future projects. So
Okay.
that's kind of a standard request. We did receive one letter from their adjacent homeowner, and it is the homeowner directly affected by the existing fireplace, and you have a copy of that attached to your staff. And I think we emailed that to you also, but there's also a
Yes,
copy
you did. Thank you.
attached to the staff memo. So it was a letter in favor, or that they weren't opposed to the variance, since I think they could not be here tonight. That's it.
Okay.
Oh, I should tell you, sorry. I forgot we did send the application to police, fire, and maintenance. Fire did respond, and they had no concerns.
Fire did respond with no concerns.
Correct. Yes.
That's a little unusual. Usually they just don't respond.
Fire always responds.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen fire in here in forever. Anyway, okay. Any questions of staff anyone has? Bob,
No.
Christian? No? Teresa?
No.
Mark? No? Okay. Then we will go to the applicant if you would introduce yourselves, and you can either go to the podium or at the table and make sure that your microphones are on.
That is on, green is on.
There you go. Okey doke. So,
I'm Megan Murphy. I am the designer, and I believe Robert may have been the applicant officially, but I prepared all the documentation.
sure. Okay, that's very normal. So,
I'm Tom Button, the homeowner.
you're Tom. Okay, and sir?
I'm Robert Raskin with RR Eisler Construction, the
Oh,
contract.
so you're actually going to do the work then?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, Robert.
The future work, not the past work.
Yeah, so we can't blame you for that.
Important distinction.
Record.
Okay. Okay, go ahead and tell us about your application.
Well, I might be a little bit redundant, but thank you for your time this evening. We're hoping to right a wrong, and it's rather nuanced, but it's, I think, rather simple. So I was contacted by the Buttons to design an outdoor structure so that they could be outside in their beautiful backyard more than what they are now. And we explored a lot of different designs and how it affected the light and inside the home, how it would affect the shadows on the site. Very thoughtful about its impact in their yard, as they're very responsible homeowners and have put a lot of energy and time and investment into their property and would like to continue to do so. So we selected a design, which is a shed structure back towards the house, which is a little bit unusual in its draining, but that's besides the point, and we've looked into that. And everything about our structure is totally code compliant, and matches the character of the neighborhood, and would enhance the property and the neighborhood, we feel. There's a complication. They made a previous improvement, and unbeknownst to them and us until very recently, that improvement was not built per drawings, and that is the fireplace. So we,
How long has the fireplace been there?
I believe 2016.
16?
Yes. So it's one of those situations where, we thought everything was kosher, and then suddenly we realized, actually, this didn't get the correct permission.
Sure.
So we're now faced with trying to right that wrong and make it work with our new proposed structure. As far as the engagement, we're open to whether our new structure's roof engages the fireplace. We would like it to. But if it's more complications in the process, then I think we could leave a gap. I don't know that that really helps us. I mean, it means water would get down in between the two, and I think as a maintenance, it would cause more of an issue. But we've gotten the approval of the neighbors. We did submit the structure itself to the HOA, as we thought that was the only thing that was pertinent at the time. And we're hoping that we have support of the board as well as the support that we already have of the neighborhood.
Did the HOA say yes or no?
They approved
Oh, the
our
HOA
structure,
approved?
yes. The
Okay.
height of the
Okay.
chimney, in case that's not clear, the existing height is around 10 feet. Well, it's below 10 feet. It's, if I measure it in the yard behind it, it's 10. If from the patio, it's 9.
Okay.
So that now, if our structure is close to it, it's going to draw smoke into the underside of the roof of our structure. So that's why we're wanting to extend the height of the existing chimney,
Okay.
so that we're then above the roof.
Okay. Okay. Because we're not gonna, we typically don't decide whether it's gonna be attached or not.
Okay, well then
Okay.
I think we would like to apply for it
'Cause
to be
you're-
attached.
Okay, because I'm looking at the plans here that don't show it attached, but you
What
intend.
counts as attached?
you
Well, it's not
intend-
going to go all the way around. It's just going to engage it. There'll be some flashing
Right.
from our roof, the overhang in underneath the stone. It's not going to be, our structure isn't going to go around it and be in the side yard.
Right,
So
that's
you're
why,
gonna, I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's why I was asking what counts as attached.
Right. So you're gonna raise the chimney part,
Yes.
make it flush, abut it, and then put flashing so that the water
Yes.
goes away.
So we don't have, a gap in between the chimney and the new roof.
I think it matters from a zoning standpoint, but the posts will be inside what is allowed from our current zoning code. The overhangs would then, so that you can see on your proposed north elevation there, it would just be the eave that would engage with that chimney in order to wrap around. And from my understanding, that the eaves are allowed to go into that side yard. So from our conversation that we had with Susan before the meeting was that really the only variance we're asking for today is for the placement of that fireplace, but just with the understanding that we will be raising it in order to give us an allowable draw from that smoke to be able to clear from the chimney.
Sure.
Once we build that, so that it raises above the roof line, gives the smoke the ability to come up through, so we don't smoke these guys out when they try to do their first fireplace, and lets everything kind of work naturally that
Sure.
way.
I'm sure you would be the first one they'd call if that happened. Okay.
Susan, is it contact with respect to the,
I have a question with regards, So there's the fireplace, and then there's like a bar or seat walls. Do those connect to the fireplace?
Yes, those are engaged.
Okay,
On the
and are
sides.
those, do those meet the 10-foot side yard setback?
I'm looking at, see that side elevation N? Right there, where that little hand is, right above there, there's an angled part of that wall that engages the fireplace. So I imagine that's in the side yard as well. That's a very good point, that hadn't even been.
But the post that's on the right there is not in the
Correct.
setback. Got it.
Our post,
Okay.
we're staying within the setback with everything, we are trying to accomplish
Yeah,
with our
yeah.
new structure.
So the new proposed construction would comply with the zoning resolution. It's the parts of the project that were previously constructed from the 2016 proposal that they didn't put those in the correct location as they had proposed to our office.
Right, so no matter what, we have to approve the encroachment into the setback. Or not, or, no, we're being, no matter what, that is before us
The
to
fireplace
consider.
Something, yes, there's a-
It's just the
there's-
height of the fireplace may or may not need.
So the fireplace encroaches, so they're here
Yes.
to ask for a variance to allow that fireplace to stay.
Right.
If they're going to get that approval, then they want to raise it to 19 feet. That also needs a variance because the code says 12 feet is the max. So if they want 19 feet, not 12 feet, then they have to ask for, they'll have to have an additional variance, and that's all contingent on whether the board wants to approve the first request.
I
Is that-
may be, sorry, go ahead.
I believe, Susan, because we will now be, the fireplace will become part of our structure, that will not then be over the height, as far as I understand. Am I
If it's,
misunderstanding that?
if it's attached, if it's part of the building, then
Yes.
that is correct.
Yes, okay, so
But
I think
once-
that's
but
what we're
once you
asking for.
attach it,
Yes,
your structure is now encroaching.
yes, so we're,
That's, either way,
Yes.
you're at the right place.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
So that was, the original question was just, is it gonna be attached? Because then the section number changes. The request is all kind of still the same.
Right.
It's just, now it's a building encroaching and not just an accessory structure. It's all of it.
Right.
But as I understand it.
But it's still the encroachments remains the same, but now it's a part of a building.
But to effectively use the structure you're proposing because of the way the smoke will come up the chimney, you've got to raise it and therefore attach it for the rain, and then you just sort of walk your way out.
yeah, the chicken and the egg is spinning here, right? Yeah.
Okay.
So we can amend the application to use a new section if it's part of the structure. Is that right?
Right.
That's the 160901B.
Correct.
We need amendment 2. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right, is the applicant seeking to amend this to make this a singular structure and asking for a variance for encroachment?
That is what we would like to end up doing. So we're not sure logistically how it works for the board. So we're asking for guidance, but that is the end result we are hoping for tonight.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm not wrong, I don't think we can give advisory opinions, but
Oh, yes.
we could review an amended request that this was a singular structure that happens to encroach. Right?
And we just, was, when we were preparing the staff memo, then it was like, oh, then this one new thing kind of came up in the office, and we were talking about that, so I thought it was good to take care of that all at one time and not make them come back again, or so.
Okay.
I think our goal would be to try to preserve your guys' time as much as possible. So, really what we're asking for, first and foremost, is a retroactive approval of the existing fireplace being in the side yard setback. And with the assumption that that is approved, then we would either come back and ask for approval for our new structure to tie into that existing fireplace that's in the, that we had permitted a variance for. So if it's okay, we would like to do that all in one meeting rather than split it up over 2 months.
I think, Mr. Chairman, for my individual purposes,
I can't hear you, Bob.
for my individual purposes, I'm not sure that I would really want to go back and do something retro. I think that,
I agree.
I think that
think you do
I would
well.
like to amend, I'd like to entertain an amended application.
Yeah, and I think that we can do that when we make, if there's a motion to be made, I think that we amend it to that, because them coming back involves another fee, more time.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to just take a holistic approach to it and do it all at once, because we already know where you want to end up. So I think we just go
I
there.
agree, and I think for purposes of any public comment that may come up,
Yeah.
that the record should just show that what we're thinking about,
Yes.
and if anybody's,
I think that makes the most sense, because,
Well, our script has both options.
right,
yeah, and I
So-
think that that makes the most sense to do it
Yeah.
all at once, rather than have you guys come back. Because I don't think it serves any purpose to come back. You know what your design looks like, you know what you want. I think that, for me, I would amend it with the motion and just do it all at once, rather than do it piecemeal. That would be my suggestion, but it's your application, not mine.
We would-
Okay, anything else for the applicant? Anything? Then at this time, we'll open it for public comment. Anyone that would like to comment on the application?
3 minutes?
Rick Whelan,
Address, please.
9500 Britton Woods Drive, Galena.
3 minutes.
A couple issues for the board to consider on this. If they want to attach that to that structure, then you better contact the building department of Delaware County and find out if they're allowed to build that building that close, because now there's going to be fire code separations. Because there's fire codes that you can't build another accessory structure within 5 feet of the existing building. So you don't need to take my word for it. I think want to advise you guys to contact the building department to check that out on your own. That's if they attach it to that structure. If it's unattached, you still might have to talk to the building department and see what they say as far as fire code with that building, especially with a fireplace in it, that close to a wooded structure. The applicant said they wanted to right a wrong with this. Sounds like the wrong was started back when the zoning approved the first fireplace. And because zoning did not go after and issue a certificate of compliance, nothing was checked apparently. And this was able to be built in the wrong location. Now we're here trying to right a wrong and make it work with the new owners. There's no hardship here. They created the hardship. To make it right, they'd have to take the fireplace down and move it out of the setback area. Period. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Chris Vondran, 200 East Kanawha, Columbus, Ohio, 43214. So I do the architecture review for Highland Lakes, and I've been doing it since 2006, okay? I am aware, I didn't know that this was on the docket. I'm actually here for something else tonight, but I do have some understanding of what's happened since 2006. I'm aware of the application that did get submitted for the structure, but I don't recall the fact that there was a chimney in this location, because it's not required that I go out and do a site visit to see what the existing conditions are. A lot of times I get sent these applications. I look at the application based upon the information that's provided, and then I make a recommendation for review and approval. In speaking with the president, who is also here this evening, I don't remember any approval that would have required a variance by the HOA as well for this chimney that's in the side yard setback. Now, again, because this is, I'm having to go from memory, there might have been an architecture review application for this chimney in a separate location that was in a buildable area. But in order for it to get approved in its current location, it would have also had to go through a variance request application through the HOA, and I don't recall it. I'd have to go back to our archives to verify that. But I don't believe we have any approval for this chimney in this location. And so, related to the administrative responsibilities of the HOA, there is a new issue that comes up, which is we have a compliance issue that is technically a violation, and the board has its responsibilities to administer the process of dealing with a violation now that it's brought to our attention or to the board's attention. I don't determine any of that. I'm just a consultant to the HOA in reviewing these applications. But this isn't really an easy yes, no this evening, because now there's the request for the variance for the chimney in its current location, which is in the side yard setback from the township, but there's still, from what I believe, there's no approval of an application that includes a variance from the HOA, which is also important. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We're gonna circle back. Nothing? No one else? Then we will close public discussion or public comment. Back to the applicant. Now, you stated that you had approval from the HOA. Now we just heard that you don't have approval from the HOA. Clarify.
Yeah, as stated earlier, we did submit, and we did not show the fireplace because it felt like it was not part of our structure, because we were leaving it short, and it felt like that has nothing to do with us. So we submitted, as stated earlier, our structure only. And then it came to pass that this is going to be a draw issue.
Oh, so you didn't realize that the
Yes.
fireplaces had got it?
Yes. It felt like we didn't have anything to do with the fireplace, and so it wasn't anything that needed to be submitted.
Right, I understand.
Our approval from HOA was, from our perspective, based on, and from what we could gather from the HOA,
Right.
was
No, I
that
understand.
it was about whether or not it was designed compliant with the neighborhood. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what that gentleman was talking about was there was no approval back when it was originally built.
Right.
I do imagine there was HOA approval back then, potentially not in the side yard setback, which is the same situation.
Well, I
we're
think the
here.
thing that everybody's missing is that it wasn't built in the correct place to start with.
Right.
It was one place and built in another on the original plan. Well, we're here anyway. My opinion is, I don't know how comfortable I am approving this application without HOA review of the entire plan.
Yeah. Now that we know that.
So that would,
Well, I mean, that and, I appreciate the testimony that the gentleman from the HOA
absolutely.
did. But what I heard from the testimony is that he doesn't recall whether there's this
I
or
also
that.
heard that as
And,
well.
and to me, I would, in addition to your comments, I would like that portion of the record clarified so that we know definitively whether that information exists or doesn't exist, or in what state it does exist if it does. Because that's really not evidence that we can,
And to your point, it is a good point, to your point is that regardless, they may have submitted to the HOA, and the HOA may have approved it or not, and it wasn't built in the place that it was submitted to the HOA anyway.
and Mr. Chair, I only point that out that they just further have a problem with the factual record to make a decision.
Yeah,
today.
and that's why
Yeah.
yes,
The only thing is that the Board of Zoning Appeals and
I
the
understand.
zoning office, the HOA, whether they approve something or do not approve something, doesn't go into consideration for,
I'm
our-
aware. Yes, your point is well taken.
so
Um,
they're not contingent on each other.
Right, no, I'm absolutely aware of that. And to my comment was, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with being in favor of the variance without that. It wasn't intended to mean that we can't do it without HOA approval, so.
Yeah, I think the HOA's position on it does influence some of the factors in the pool of things we think about, but it's not dispositive of it anyway.
Is the board aware of HOA's jurisdiction as it comes to zoning? Because to me, this
No.
feels like a zoning issue, not an HOA issue.
And you're right. Typically, the question is asked whether or not the HOA has been consulted and whether whether they've done an approval or not.
Which they have.
Now, if the board's comfortable with proceeding, knowing that the HOA that the HOA has approved this, but not the exact plan they didn't see the exact plan that we're seeing.
So just to clarify, the
Yes.
HOA has approved the design of the new structure.
Right,
Nor would have thought we needed to ask their permission to apply for a variance for the zoning board.
no, I understand. I totally understand, because it wasn't built in the right place to start with, and you didn't think you needed to be here to start with also. I totally understand that, so. Okay, so.
I'm uncomfortable moving forward tonight.
Okay.
I do think that although one is not necessarily linked to the other,
Right,
the our board and the HOA, I do think that if the HOA were fully apprised of all of the facts and they rejected it, it may have an impact on how I vote tonight. And I think that's kind of what Bob's saying too.
Right, Mark, it may or it may not. It's
May or
just that
may not.
we usually ask this question since I've been on the board, what's the HOA
yeah,
say?
we've done it since I've been on. the
Right,
board.
and the answer was, and I appreciate you're being truthful, that, hey, look, when we submitted it,
And you're
it didn't
not
have
wrong,
everything.
And you're not wrong.
Yeah, you're not wrong, it's just that the answer's qualified now, yes.
And for the applicant, say if the board proceeded and if the Board of Zoning Appeals approved and they go to the HOA and they deny their request for their variance, then our decision is mute. So they may want to ask to continue the hearing, get their answer from the HOA board before they proceed with us. And that's an option you have also.
That was a very succinct and well-phrased way to say it.
And I think I'll just
Yeah,
stop
I don't
there.
think we can say it any better, Mr. Chair.
I think I'll just stop there. Yeah. So,
So, I'm sorry, just for clarity, is the board aware of jurisdiction that the HOA has with zoning? Like, is there an opportunity for us to even ask for permission for this through the HOA? Because my understanding with the HOA.
Yeah, I don't know how
They
they all
wouldn't,
work.
they wouldn't
but-
make the decision for
For
the
us.
zoning variance.
Right.
They're gonna make the decision for whether or not the current fireplace is within compliance for HOA rules. Our decision is not based off of theirs, and theirs is not based off of ours. It's just simply a factor that we take into account, whether or not the HOA would allow the construction of the structure.
And
But-
if I-
Right, to
Yeah, if
get-
I could put a little finer point on what Susan said. In terms of jurisdiction, the Board of Zoning Appeals is the ultimate say in whether the variance is granted or not. But the problem is that I am uncomfortable going forward because, to Susan's point, we can make a decision, they grant you the variance, and the homeowners association says, well, no, you can't do it because the homeowners association says no. Then you're going to be in a situation trying, you're going to have a decision from the zoning board of appeals that your HOA, you're going to get sideways with your HOA. And at this juncture, for my processing, I'd much rather know what the HOA says, one way or the other. Then I want to make my decision knowing what the HOA said. I don't want it after.
Right, and to kind of give you a live example from a few
Right.
years ago, is that we have had applicants that have come here and said, and we've asked the question, because if you live in a development that has an HOA, we have asked the question, has the HOA approved or denied this structure? Well, or whatever it is. And we have had them from time to time that say no. And that is a consideration when we are considering an application. It is not the only consideration, but it is a consideration. So,
And I guess the flip of it, we've all talked if we approve it tonight. If we reject it tonight,
right,
for whatever reason, and you go to the HOA and get it approved, then you're gonna have to start this whole process over.
From the
well,
beginning.
I'm not sure if we rejected it tonight, that they could come back to us.
It'd have to be something different than this.
Must be something different.
Yeah.
It's just, long and short of it, just makes more sense, at least to me, to go back, dot that I, come back.
So,
Are there two
So
options?
the applicant
Right.
has to, you're gonna have to ask if you want to continue, and then sort out with your HOA issues, and then, they can decide if, what, meeting date you want to put it back on to. And, that may be, a consideration that you want to do, because then you don't have yourself in this situation where you have one yes and one no, and going forward. Continue. Or vice versa, or however it might work out.
Okay, I wanted, before we ask for the continuation, I'd like to just be clear, the HOA is where we go to ask for architectural appropriateness, correct? Not zoning approval.
Correct, but they
Correct.
also have their own standards for setbacks within the HOA.
Whatever, we don't know their rules, we just know that architecturally, they have to say, architecture doesn't, I don't care if it painted orange. So as long as it fits within the code, that's what we give you.
Okay, thank you for all of the feedback tonight. We would like to ask for continuation.
okay.
So moved.
Before,
Second.
Whoa,
No.
whoa, there. Whoa there.
I wanted to ask if the board has any feedback from us as far as the way we've gone about it. I know there's a lot of confusion with the height and before and after. If we're gonna clean all that up, is
Let
there
me
way
make a
that we can do that?
suggestion. Take the time to clean that up,
Yeah.
okay? Because typically, we've had applicants in the past, over the years, I've been on this board for a while, and we've had applicants over the years that say, well, we may do this, we may do that. You tell us what you want us to do. We don't tell you what we want you to do. What we do is we look at what you bring us and we say yes or no. And that's really what I would recommend if in fact you would like to have a continuance between now and when the next hearing is that you come back. I would have a specific plan, attached, not attached, exactly what code section that we are asking for a variance for. That would be my best suggestion, is to do that, have a specific concrete plan that you want to implement, which would mirror what you took to the HOA, and then come in and say, this is what the HOA likes. Here's what we have. Because like I said, we're not going to tell you attached, not attached, 12 feet tall, 19 feet tall. That's not what we do, because we're not architects and we're not contractors.
I think from our standpoint, we felt it was appropriate to try to ask for the retroactive approval before we ask for the approval of
Well,
the new plan. But if
here's the
board
thing.
says it's acceptable
Here's
for
the
us to
thing.
just ask for the new plan, that's the route we'd rather go.
We can give you a retroactive approval for the fireplace, but frankly, I don't think it does you what you want to do. Because then you'll be back here in 90 days or 60 days, and with your final plan saying, well, here we are again, and I just paid another X number of dollars to have the opportunity to get to see me again. And I'm not sure that's the best thing. I don't think that accomplishes what you want to accomplish. But I'm not making that decision for you. You've got to make that decision.
Absolutely. We appreciate your feedback.
I mean, that's the best I can tell you. Okay. So you're requesting a continuance? Is
May I
that-
ask another question?
Absolutely.
Can you remind me what the fee is? 600? Okay.
Not for continuance.
Even if we go back to HOA and they say that's the apartment head, I think we need to come back to them and say,
We have a script. Oh, there's continuance. Okay, yeah.
Trying your best to make it get on the
Are
record.
we,
Oh, well, they're,
yeah, okay. No, I just want to make sure you're waiting for them to finish. Okay.
no, I'm not.
No, I didn't know if you were waiting
I'm
for
not
one of us to
having
make a.
senior moment.
No, I didn't know if you were waiting
Oh
for
my
one of
God,
us to
he's
make a
gone.
motion.
I try
Wait,
not to do
which-
that out of the house.
This is the Ridgewood one, right? No, this is the Medallion one. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can just do that.
I don't know.
And then they won't need it.
I don't know. I don't live in a HOA development.
Yeah,
so
exactly, yeah.
I couldn't
but-
tell you.
but, I mean,
This is nuts.
So they could?
Yes, you're right.
We got nests. Some of my neighbors got nests.
Should.
They had to clean their mailbox.
Right. You're right. I've heard that. Apparently, we're taking a break.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Okay, are we ready?
I gotta be here all night anyway.
And I think we're back.
I get paid the same.
And we're back.
They gotta pay again. Table again.
Is that?
Yeah, I was reading this thing about,
Are you,
yeah, the time you untable,
How
you
would I
gotta
get to
pay.
the at sign? Oh, here.
hey, Mark, after this, we'll take a break so that you guys can launch. We'll take a break after this case so you guys can go if you're gonna go. Recuse go. I assume you're gonna leave, so. Okay.
Well, that's up to you guys. They need to make a decision.
Oh, well, kind of. Sure. Oh, I think we're waiting for them, so, which is fine.
I'm not sure that they know we're waiting for them.
Right,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah, we're good.
Mike is live.
Okay.
I get paid the
And
same
we're
no
back.
matter how long this takes. It
I
doesn't
know,
matter.
which is
We're
0.
not hourly here.
I'm sorely aware of that.
So,
We would like to ask for a continuation, and we appreciate your occupations
Does
and,
somebody want to make a motion to continue the case? This is BZA case 2024-13,
Hey, Mark?
and
Can
yes.
you ask them to,
Hey,
because I
can we
can't
keep the
hear.
noise in the back down, please? The acoustics are terrible in here. I can generally hear the people in the back row better than I can hear the people here. So
And I can't hear
I
it
didn't
all,
build the
so.
building, I just have to live with it. Okay. So, yeah, page, really?
Page
Oh.
or 11 for the Medallion East, right? No.
Thank you,
Page
Paul.
10, the Ridgewood, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna continue to, do you guys want to come in next month? Do you think that's enough time, or do you want to come in January?
I think you're getting a response from the gentleman from the HOA behind you if you want to.
Yeah, I guess it's December enough time.
Okay.
January?
January.
Okay. That's fine. We'll continue until January. I will tell you this, there is another case on the docket already in January, so just be aware.
Okay.
So, okay, then actually, since I'm here and looking at it, I will make a motion to continue case 2024-13 and continue the public hearing for the subject application at 5865 Ridgewood Avenue until January, help me out, somebody. I think it's 28th, 2025. Additional or revised materials will be due to the Genoa Township Development Office and Zoning Department by December 30th at 4 p.m. Oh, time and place will be 7 o'clock, Genoa Township Hall, right here.
Second.
Second by Mr. DeRose. Okay, are we ready to call the vote?
Call the vote?
Okay,
Yes.
Ms. Yu,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. DeRose?
Yes.
Mr. Christian?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. See you in January. Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. We have, for the next case, we have 2 members of the board that will be leaving us. They're going to recuse themselves from the case.
Okay, I think the board's ready to start up again, so you need quiet. Okay, Mark. We're good. Whenever you are.
Okay, and we're back. Okay, I'm going to open the hearing at 7:58 PM. This is for an area variance. And I will read the legal notice into the record. David E. and Karen L. Kelly requesting approval of a variance to allow construction of an accessory building garage to encroach into the required 10-foot side yard setback at 5378 Medallion Drive East, Westerville, Ohio 43082. It's lot 3142 in the Medallion Estate subdivision, currently zoned planned residential, and this is BZA case 2024-14. And let me swear everybody in first, and then we'll go from there. So all those wishing to appear on this matter, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Be seated. Okay, I read the legal notice into the record. It was printed and published on November 6, 2024 in the Delaware Gazette and posted.
Those guys down back there.
What?
Can you ask those guys to be quiet back there, please? The guys in the all black, they're talking.
Oh,
It's very
yeah,
loud.
okay. In the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on October 28, 2024. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners contiguous to and across the street from the subject property was also made. We have entered into evidence exhibits A through D, the legal notice, the sign-in sheet, the application, and the staff report. Before we start with the staff report, if the applicant could come to the desk here or to the table. I want to advise you before we do the hearing, before we have the hearing on this, or before we begin the hearing, that you'll notice that 2 of our 5 members have recused themselves and left the building. It will require 2 of the 3 of us to approve your application. You have the option of going forward with the application with just the 3 of us, or continuing the matter to next month or at a later date with a full 5-person board. So what's your pleasure?
So there's 2 alternates that could show up next month that are different than these
Correct.
2? Yeah.
This is actually, I just said to them during the break, this is extremely unusual. I can't, and I've been on this board for a while. It's extremely unusual to have only 3 members here. Sometimes it's 4. Normally it is 5 because we are a 5-person board with 2 alternates. It happens to be 2 are out of town for work. So it depends on the urgency of the application. Oh, you know what?
So
The last applicant had the same opportunity, so.
there's not 100% guarantee.
No, of course
That
not.
both of the other, like the other regular member and the other alternate could be here anytime, but
True.
it's possible.
Also, January may not be the alternates. You don't really know.
If I could predict that.
These 2 the 2 regular board members will not be here for hearing any of your case. So it would have to be, there's 1 regular member
Right, and one
and one
alternate.
alternate
other
that
alternate.
could not be here tonight.
Right.
So there's a possibility next month you could have 5 members, then you have to have 3 out of the 5 to get a favorable vote,
As opposed to 2 out
2 out
of
of
the 3.
3. Yeah,
So,
so it's up to you.
Right.
Yep.
Sounds like we'll proceed.
You want to proceed tonight with
Yes,
the application? Okay. Knowing that you are only going, that you're going to require 2 of the 3 of us to approve the application.
Yes.
Okay. Start with the staff report.
Thank you, Mark. So the address of this subject property is 5378 Medallion Drive East. It's lot 3142 in the Medallion Estates subdivision, section 3. It is a 0.49 acre parcel, and it is located in a planned residential district. The plat for Medallion East, Medallion Estate Section 3 was recorded on March 3rd, 1995. On May 20th, 1996, zoning permit 96209 was issued for the construction of the residence on the subject property. We did not find any additional zoning permits for the property. A residential improvement application was submitted for construction of an accessory building on September 16th, 2024. Staff emailed the applicant on September 20th, 2024, requesting a new drawing that accurately showed the lot lines and the proposed setbacks for the accessory building. A copy of email correspondence between staff and Mr. Welling is attached. The applicant met with staff on September 30th, 2024 to discuss the application and potential solutions. After that meeting, a variance application requesting a reduction to the required 10-foot side yard setback for an accessory building was received on October 22nd, 2024. There is a disclaimer on the cover sheet that you received as part of the application that states the architect is not responsible for accuracy of lot line locations. The contractor to locate south property line prior to construction. Staff suggests that the applicant should provide details on how they concluded that they needed to have an encroachment into the 10-yard setback if they don't currently know exactly where the side property line is. And then information listed just in the general notes, just for clarification. It listed the owners as Jamie and Scott Grossman instead of the applicants and the property owner of the subject property, which is David and Karen Kelly. If the variance is approved, staff would suggest that the motion clearly state that the variance only applies to the accessory building as proposed as part of this variance application, and no additional encroachments be allowed unless another variance request is granted. And a copy of the application went to the Genoa Police Fire and Maintenance. The fire marshal had no comments or concerns. We did receive one email from the adjacent property owner, and the board received that email, and there's also a copy of that email attached to the staff memo. That's all I have. I guess our biggest thing is the property line. If they don't know where the property line, how do they determine the amount of encroachment?
Something tells me we're going to find out.
That's correct.
Okay, if you'd introduce yourself, sir?
Sure, I'm Mark Welling, owner of Dwellings Design Build.
Okay,
I'm Dave Kelly.
Dave Kelly, okay. Property owner? And did you recently take title of the property? Is that why you're not shown as owner?
That was a typo
that
on
was-
myself, so that was a typo. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
No,
I didn't even know who those
Yeah,
people were.
that was, that's a typo.
Just out of curiosity, how long have you owned the property?
Right about 7 years.
7 years? Okay.
That was just on one of the exhibits that they had attached to the application that had a different name, so
Oh,
just
okay.
for clarification.
Sure. Okay, go ahead and present your application.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for hearing this, and good evening, everyone. I approached, Mr. Kelly and I got together maybe 6 months ago and started talking about a detached garage to his property. So we, through the design process, came up with about a 26 by 16 garage that you're seeing on the plot up here. It's about 416 square feet. We align that with the very end of his driveway, because aesthetically, that is the most appealing, is when you pull in, you want the garage to be centered with your driveway. Through the process of looking at setbacks, we discovered, and we did get to answer that question, we did hire Cub Surveying to go out and physically mark the south boundary line on October 23rd. So that line was marked, and that did match up with the plot that you have on file. And that plot is by Bauer, Davidson, and Merchant. That's dated July 9th of 1997.
So it matches this?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So we're all dealing with the same information here.
Okay.
So with that garage lining up with his driveway, the driveway is 2.8 feet into that 10-foot setback. And so aesthetically, to really gain the most value for the garage and aesthetically pleasing for the property and the property owner in the neighborhood, it's best to align this garage at the end of the driveway and not offset it 2.8 feet as required by the 10-foot setback. So that's what we did, and that's what we've shown on the drawings. I actually have a sketch here. I don't know if I'm able to
Sure,
provide that to you. Okay.
absolutely.
It kind of lays out just for the record. This lays out just a visual, if you will, of what this would look like. Thank you very much. I have more copies too, if needed. So this lays out the visual, and it's a very simple visual look here, where the first page is the garage, and this is actually a picture of his driveway. And it shows the garage nicely centered. And in fact, the width of the garage is going to be the width of the driveway. Yes, absolutely, yeah. The second sheet shows the 10-foot setback, which requires the garage to be shifted 2.8 feet. So aesthetically, as anybody that would, own a home would prefer, understandably so, this to be centered with the driveway.
The driveway already exists?
Yes,
All the way out?
yes,
And just dead ends?
yes.
Save me some time and a
Please.
little bit of brain damage. What's the dimensions of the garage?
I got them right here. It is 26 feet by 16? Yeah,
16 wide, 26 feet?
deep, correct. Yes, sir.
I knew it was there somewhere, but.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Anything else to add? No?
It's a pretty simple request. It's
Okay.
really to be aesthetically pleasing to the driveway, to his property, in our opinion, to the neighbor's property. If this garage is offset from the driveway, it actually decreases the view and the value of all the properties, in our opinion, of that area.
And just to clarify,
Yes,
if it is offset, you would not need to be here.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But if it was offset, wouldn't you just put in more concrete?
It's closer, if you look at the sketch, it would be closer to his home. The second sheet shows the garage shifted to the north.
Right. I
So
guess-
there's the odd area off to the left, and then it's getting pretty close to his home, allowing for a condensed area to walk through between the garage and his home.
Is that
That's
a-
not
is that
preferable.
a tree back there
Yes,
on the left?
yes.
Is that going to be removed?
It will not be removed, no.
I assume that's the homeowner's tree?
It is,
Okay. Just double check.
What's the current distance between the home and the garage?
not, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
What's the current distance between the home and the proposed garage?
We can come up with that.
I think it was 34. No, sorry. 34 was the other side.
If I have that dimension handy. I think it was, let me see here. Right at about 16 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so there it is. It is 34. The other side.
Okay.
32 to the.
Okay, anything else for the applicant?
2.8-foot setback.
Right.
Well, yeah, 2 feet, 10 inches, right?
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood.
2 feet, 10 inches?
Correct,
feet,
it's
8
2
inches.
point,
2.8, yeah.
2.8.
2.8.
So that's,
But
that's
2 feet,
math
10
makes
2
inches.
foot, 9 inches and 9.6 inches, yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Then I will open it for public discussion then. Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter that has been sworn in, please come up and state your name and address and your comment. And I'm going to limit discussion to 3 minutes.
Hi, my name is Jean Kohler, and I live at 5400 Medallion Drive East, and I am the adjacent neighbor, okay? I am here to speak in my behalf. In the variance request form, they have mentioned 3 times that they had received a letter from the neighbor, which I had sent to you saying that there is no letter. I never wrote a letter saying that it was fine with me. I spoke with Dave a couple times, and he told me about building the garage, and I told him, I said, I have no problem with you building a garage. I think that you will enjoy it. Then after that, he said that he had a little dilemma, that he wanted to encroach onto the property line, and I told him no. I have a detached garage, and so how they were saying about putting it at the end of the driveway, my detached garage is not at the end of our driveway. I have my husband, who was also a home builder, late husband, built the garage is 15.5 feet away from the property line, giving ample room. So he wants to encroach and making it, and there's no reason why, according to the plans, that he cannot move it over. He just does not like the look of it and wants it at the end of the driveway. Well, I walk the neighborhood and I see many detached garages that are not at the end of the driveway, and neither is mine. So my extended part of the driveway goes on an angle so that the building was consistent with being that 15.5 feet away from the property line. So I also find it concerning and disheartening that someone will say that I gave them permission to do that when I did not.
Okay. Oh, hold on 1 second. Hey, Paul? Can you put the overhead up from the, a tight overhead from the county on that so we can get a visual? Pardon? The neighbor's the one. Yep, that's what I want to see. So this is your detached.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you see,
Tree line, and then he wants to build here, is that correct?
yes.
Closer to the driveway, yeah.
He
Right
wants to
there,
be
yes.
built like right at
Yes.
the edge of the drive.
Right, up here as opposed to over here. Because
Correct.
he's
Over a
not-
little.
Now, remember, he's not on the property line, he's inside, there's a 10-foot distance.
No,
between
he
you
does,
and
he's
him.
not gonna have the 10-foot.
Right, that's why we're here.
So
7
that's why
point-
I'm saying.
Yep, yep.
And so there is no reason why he can still not build his garage with the 10-foot setback. He
Correct.
just has to move the garage over.
I understand.
And that's not what he wants to do.
Okay.
And I totally understand that, but I don't feel that it's right. I don't feel comfortable with it at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have one comment here?
Sure.
Ms. Kohler, thank you so much.
It's not an opportunity to engage, but.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
wanna
And
see your comment.
we fully respect her opinion.
Okay.
Something that is worth noting is it's a miscommunication. We thought we were going to get her approval and understanding. That's why when we filed this application on October 22nd, we thought we were going to get it. That's why we documented it. We're going to get the letter, we're going to get the letter, because we had all indications that was going to happen. There was no intent for ill will in that whatsoever. Her email came in November 10th, a week ago,
Right.
saying that she did not approve that. So it's a miscommunication, is why that showed up the way that it did. I wanted to point that out. Number two is, I'm also a resident of Medallion and a designer, and I built a lot in this neighborhood. I fully respect the need to have a 10-foot setback. I don't want somebody building a structure that close to mine either. And to her point, with her garage being 15.6 feet away, and we can do the math, and this garage being 7.2 feet away, that's easily equaling well beyond the 20-foot desired difference between the two structures. So the preferred distance between two structures is a minimum of 20 feet, and we're at 23, 24 feet. I just wanted to point those two things out. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Oh, up to the microphone. I'm sorry to make you run up there, but I think it's important. You're the adjacent neighbor, and I think we need to hear from you. Normally, I just have him make your comment and go, so.
With him making that comment about the distance between, how far my garage is from the property line has no bearing on the zoning. The zoning is to be 10 feet away from the property line. When my husband had built that 15.5 feet away, so you cannot include that to make it right.
I understand. Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Okay, next, public commenter.
Rick Whelan, 9500 Britton Woods Drive. Board, we're here again because we have a code. We have a code that says a 10-foot setback. I don't know why we're getting applications coming in and the zoning department doesn't nix it right at the application start and say, no, we're not going to have this variance or whatever. If you want to build your garage, stay within the setbacks and that's it.
Teresa.
I did, yep.
Excuse me, Mark. I don't think it's the Board of Zoning's appeals stuff that they should be encroaching in these 10-foot setbacks, especially in a PRD development. These are minimum setbacks in this neighborhood. This neighborhood was designed with those buildings and stuff in place. These are minimum setbacks. We're giving them as much space on the lot to build as we can. They have to stay out of these setbacks. And to the neighbor's standpoint, if she wanted to knock her garage down and build a bigger garage, she could encroach. She might come and ask for a variance for 5 feet from the lot line. Now, to his point, you only have 12 feet between the buildings if he's 7 feet and she's 5 feet. That's not the intent of our zoning. Our intent of the zoning is to keep these properties on a nice scale and have a 10-foot setback minimum from the lot lines, period. He has plenty of room, there's no trees or nothing in there. He can build that garage 2 feet over closer to his house with no practical difficulties that I have heard from him this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whelan. Okay, anyone else? Come on up. Name and address?
My name's Carol Howe, and I live in Medallion on 8572 Buttonbush Lane. I was a member of the HOA for 12 years. I am not currently the president now. I resigned from the HOA. My only concern when this came about was that we, as a community, take pride in our community. We love our township. And we do not want encroachments in our setbacks or our drainage easements. There's been some of those issues too. We've made people move swimming pools because they were encroaching. We've made people repaint houses because they didn't do the right colors. So it's best to nip this in the beginning, as the gentleman before me spoke about our whole setback. It's not a hardship. A hardship would be if you could prove it, you have a hardship with this, fine, prove it, because I don't see a hardship. A hardship would be if we said, you cannot put a wheelchair ramp at your front door and you were handicapped. That would be a hardship. I don't see any hardship in shifting your garage over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sir?
Maybe I'll be the last person.
Oh, you again.
Chris Vondran, 200 East Kanawha Avenue, Columbus, Ohio, 43214. So I am, again, the Architecture Review Board Compliance Officer for Medallion. And
How do you get around?
I've been doing Medallion since 95. So I'm the last person from Champions Development Group, the original developer of Medallion. I'm not here because I was requested by the board, the HOA, or the Architecture Review Board, to speak related to opposition. My intent tonight was to come and simply clarify a few things that I can validate because I'm the person.
Have they submitted anything to the HOA regarding this application?
So there was an initial application here in the last 2 weeks that was submitted.
Okay.
It was denied because of some inaccuracies in the site plan that was submitted. When that was identified, we had to deny it, send it back to them, knowing that there was going to be a revised plan coming forth. But the Architecture Review Board has not seen a new application since then. Okay? But what I can say, and I think this is the detail that I think is important, since 1995, and also knowing the couple of years prior to that, the Architecture Review Board has not granted a variance to a setback within Medallion Estates. In fact, this year, there were 2 applications for similar side yard setbacks that the Architecture Review Board did deny. So, again, they didn't ask me to come and speak on their behalf. I wanted to come and simply provide some factual details. The next application, no, I can't verify how they're going to address the need for a variance also from the HOA, because we have a variance request application process as well. They would ask me my opinion. That's a part of the process. Then the Architecture Review Board would vote upon it. But I can validate that in the time, almost 30 years that I've been with Medallion, there haven't been any approved variance request applications for something, an ancillary structure in a setback. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Susan. Can we give him a, or?
I can reach up and grab this. Okay, Bill Anders, 3501 Sunbury Road, Galena. When I was on the board at BZA, I would say 90% of people that wanted a variance, it was declined. I was talking to Barb Lewis, who is now the county commissioner. She was on the BZA. She said probably 90% or more of these variance requests were denied when she was on there. When I looked at the past history of the BCA, I only found 3 of these variances that were not granted. Everything else that's a variance that comes to you guys, you grant. And you find somewhere for the current applicant to get the benefit. The code is the code. If it says it's, and you're already in a tight residential area, to start trying to put a building right on top of someone else's property just seems absurd. The code is the code. You got 10 feet, then you do 10 feet. If you don't like the way it looks on your property, that's just tough. But you don't start playing around with the code. You guys aren't in charge of changing the code just because of someone's desire for appearances or something. Also, I would like to have seen a really super accurate survey here of exactly where it is. I have a question for Susan, though. It comes back again and again. Is there any inspection that's done at the end of, say, this building to make sure it's the building, the garage is in the correct place? That in 2016, your prior one, there was done a pretty inspection done, so it wasn't built correctly, and now, of course, we're dealing with it. But is there any final inspection that's done from the township on any of these things?
Do you want to answer that?
If the board
Because
wants me to
this
answer it,
isn't-
I
this
will,
isn't
but
an
it's not a
opportunity to question
question.
the
Yeah.
board or the applicant. This is an opportunity to make a comment.
Well, which I-
So,
Well, my comment is that if they had inspections and you had somebody go out with a tape measure and measure a lot of this stuff, you wouldn't have like problems in the first one. We got to be more specific in how we handle and we look at these projects, not just approve it on paper in here, and then there's no more checking being done. If there's no more checking being done, we got a real serious problem. And that's my general comment, because a lot of times I sit here. And also, no more guessing by the board of what's in the neighbor's mind. I think this lady was pretty strong over here. I appreciate your courage, lady. She was pretty strong, but you guys have said stuff before, and I went back and talked to the adjoining neighbors and said, well, why weren't you at the meeting? I'm not at the meeting because I've gotten in fights with the guy before, and if he objected to the whole sheet metal thing, he said it would cause World War III. When the police came to my house that evening, because I was threatened in this meeting, which you guys didn't seem to care about, he told me all kinds of history that you guys obviously didn't know. The same thing was true if you're putting an extra two-car garage up on a property, and you have these little two-car garages all over the
Can
property.
we keep comment to the case at hand, please?
Okay.
Thank
What?
you.
I'm sorry?
Can we keep comment to the case at hand, please?
Yeah, the case at hand is, you don't give variances out so a guy can just build another two-car garage and store some
thank
big
you,
thing.
Mr. Andrews.
And you can send me watching, but you guys just got to do your job with the code, not what you think or you feel like. Oh, by the way, if you do change this around, you're going to be able to hear a lot better.
Okay. Any other comments? All right.
Chairman, I'd like to have a couple comments to that, if I could, please.
I'm sure you do.
Great, thank you. I'm a registered engineer. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Ohio, and I've been that way for over 25 years. There's nobody in this room that understands and respects code more than me. I get it, I understand it, and I understand the need for it. I also understand from doing this and being a builder for 25, 30 years, that there's variances and there's always exceptions. That's why we're here tonight. If we were not here tonight and we didn't have this kind of situation at our hand that would benefit this neighborhood and the property value in and around this, we wouldn't have a variance process. So I thoroughly respect that. Also, being a builder within Medallion, I can wholeheartedly say that I've had several instances that Mr. Vondran has not agreed to, yet a variance by the HOA was formally approved and the project proceeded. So I want to comment on a couple of the statements that were said that are simply not accurate. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
May I say one more thing, please?
You, yes, but, no, but
I'll make
yes.
it quickly. As I said before.
It's really out of
I
protocol,
was
but,
on the board, and Mr. Vondran follows the rules and regulations. We have our codes and regulations and our covenants and our guidelines. They've been established since day one. We have updated them somewhat and done what we can do to change them. We do not vary based upon somebody wanting to build something, or we would have dog houses, we would have all kinds of crazy things being built. Our HOA is based upon how you're supposed to follow it. Mr. Welling's wife is on the board. So you know that, and she knows that you're supposed to follow our rules, guidelines, and covenants. You have copies as a homeowner. Everybody knows what they are. If the board said no, it's no.
Yeah, thank you. Because she is on the board, I thoroughly respect and understand the rules. You're exactly right. And she's not on the board anymore. Thank you.
all right. Anybody else have a comment? Okay. Well, so it seems as though we're at the same place with this application that we were at with the last application, in my opinion. Is that, has the HOA approved this? No, you don't agree.
I don't agree because in our last submission that we put through to zoning, we had a drainage easement issue. And the Delaware,
No,
I-
I'm talking about the application.
I understand that, but a case study for this same neighborhood, we had an application that went through, drainage issue, drainage easement issue, Delaware County engineer approved it, HOA formally modified their approach and their approval based on that Delaware County engineer's respect that this project can proceed forward. And based on that approval, I fully anticipate that the HOA is going to need your direction and your approval so they can understand how to proceed properly.
Okay, if that's what you want to do. So, any other discussion, any other public comment? Well, it seems like, come on up. And then seriously,
Gotta be done.
we're done.
Well, again, this is.
Now, are you on behalf of the HOA or not?
I am a consultant to the HOA,
Okay,
okay? And any new application related to this property will come across my desk.
Right.
And it'll get processed as it's
Understand.
supposed to,
okay.
okay? And I just want to clarify, related to what Mr. Welling had indicated, the HOA's decision is not dependent upon or influenced by the zoning decision that's
Right.
related to this.
We're aware, we just had that discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to be,
Yeah,
that
we
everybody's
absolutely
clear.
just had that discussion with the last case, and you were here. So we realize that one really doesn't have a lot of relevancy to the other. We
well, a
just
lot of
need to
times
know.
parties don't understand that administrative hierarchy
aware.
related to.
I'm aware,
Thank
thank you. I've been on the board for a while. Okay, so public comment is closed, and I guess we need to go into discussion. Oop. Now that everybody's awake. So, comments, anyone? Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, well,
Go
I don't know,
ahead.
without HOA approval, based on the public comment we've gotten, I mean,
Well,
We'll
let
give
it-
the-
this definitely doesn't feel like a slam dunk with an HOA.
since we're in discussion and we're not inviting more commentary.
Correct.
Okay.
I'm taking in what we've already heard from public
My
comment.
comment is, while I would listen to the HOA, whether they said yes or no to the application, regardless of what they would tell me, I'm not particularly inclined to vote for approval of the application for two reasons. One is that there are other alternatives, and they showed us one of the alternatives. And frankly, there's two alternatives. You can move it over, or you can make it smaller. Typically, a one-car detached, and I call it a one-car detached garage, even though I realize it's an accessory unit, are 12-ish feet in my world. And reducing the size, moving it over are two alternatives. And frankly, I don't care what the HOA says. It doesn't matter to me when I look at it in that regard. While it's probably similar to the architecture to the main house and to the neighborhood, it looks like it probably is. I don't live there, but I am very familiar with Medallion. Like I said, I think there's other alternatives, and I'm not particularly inclined to vote in favor of the variance. That's,
Also the neighbor's comment.
and, well, yeah, and I think, and I don't want to portray it that the neighbor's comment absolutely tanked the application. While I think the neighbor's comment is well taken and appropriate, and it's important, it's a consideration, but it is not the consideration for me.
Correct.
Okay? Because generally, I think we try and A, do what's common sense, and B, try and make it make sense, essentially. And I think, like I said, I think there's other alternatives besides approving the variance. It's only 3 feet, but yeah, it's 3 feet. It's, 30%-ish. I mean, it's a little less than 30%. So for me, I'm not inclined to be in favor of the application. So you guys. Pardon me. So, anybody want to make a motion? Teresa, anything?
Duncan versus Middlefield? Duncan versus
You wanna
Middlefield?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess we could do that. Here, I'll do it, because
Okay.
well, maybe I shouldn't be the one to do it.
Go for it.
Are you gonna do Duncan versus Middlefield?
Yes, we're doing
Okay,
Duncan versus
okay.
Millville. Well, are you doing Duncan versus Millville?
No, go ahead. Like I said,
Okay.
I probably shouldn't be the one to do it.
Okay. The board reviewed section 307.06 of the zoning resolution reflecting Duncan versus Middlefield as it pertains to the area variance requested from section 1609.01.b to allow for an accessory building to encroach into a side setback in a planned residential zoning district as follows. The property in question would yield a reasonable return, and there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance, because they could place it elsewhere, they already have a
Right.
garage. Yeah. The variance is substantial, because it's at 28%, so, yeah,
There you go.
that's just what we've generally, I'm not taking good notes. The essential character of the neighborhood,
Let me
So,
throw you a bone.
I could say would be substantially altered, because there really we have not seen that they generally allow these encroachments.
See, I would argue the other.
But, okay.
I would argue the other side, because I would say visually, at the end of the driveway, visually is more aesthetically pleasing than it would be to have it moved over into the, out of the
But
easement.
the direct neighbor did that. They
Right.
didn't build it at the end, they offset it
Right.
with a little bit of extra concrete, and it looks fine. So, okay, well, I'll go with would not be substantially altered, and the properties would not suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
I would agree with that statement.
Okay. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. They reviewed it, and per their review, the property owner did purchase property with knowledge of the zoning restriction, because it existed at the time the building or their house was built. The property owner's predicament can be feasibly obviated through a method other than the variance. They can make it smaller, they can offset it like other neighbors have. And the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement
I guess that's what we have to determine.
Right, yeah.
I mean, on its face, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen here. But when you take into consideration the neighbor,
Mhm.
the fact that it can be altered, the fact that it can be moved, I have a hard time being in favor of it. That's just,
Yes, the spirit intent would not be observed because spirit intent is to keep that clear and,
right.
right, it's not like we're dealing with like a
Yes.
septic tank, like,
Right.
like there's nothing that
Right.
says it has to be
There's-
here, it's not like,
exactly. There's
there's
not
these narrow areas.
It's an aesthetic as opposed to
Right.
a physical necessity to keep it there.
Right. That's what I kept
It
thinking. of
doesn't
septic.
have to be there.
Yeah. Because I know we've seen others that encroach, like in others where it is a septic tank or there's a significant
Right.
elevation
right.
change.
Power
Right.
line, septic
Yeah.
tank, wall, I don't know,
Yeah.
some natural barrier that you can't work around.
Right.
So, yeah, I would agree.
Am I allowed to make one comment or no?
Sure,
No. It doesn't debate any of this. It's
Quickly.
just providing a clarity.
quickly.
Is the ceiling height of that structure is really important to the owner. And so making the structure narrow doesn't work aesthetically.
understand.
It's narrow and tall. So I just want to
I-
comment.
Yeah, and typically, we see these kinds of structures, there's a reason that is like that, so. I understand, sure. Okay, then I guess we'll entertain, all right, do we go through everything?
We did
No.
go through everything.
Okay, then I will entertain a motion. I'm not comfortable making a motion for approval for sure. So, that being said,
All right. I will move to incorporate exhibits A through E, because we have the additional site plan, or
mhm,
visual, as well as the board's findings pertaining to the review of section 307.06 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution into evidence and to approve the requested variance from section 1609.01.b of the Genoa Township zoning resolution for BZA 2024-14, application received October 25th, 2024, to allow for an accessory building to encroach 2 feet 10 inches into the left side setback on property known as Lot 3142 in Medallion Estates subdivision, 5378 Medallion Drive East, Westerville, Ohio, 43082, zoned planned residential district. This motion is based on the following findings of fact pursuant to section 307.04 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution, that such variance or modification will not be contrary to the public interest because
oh, it's your motion.
I know, I'm just trying to fill it in. It's located at the end of an existing drive. It will,
I mean, it generally conforms to the neighborhood.
Thank
It
you,
just
conforms to
happens be
neighborhood.
the easement.
okay. Owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the zoning resolution will result in an unnecessary hardship. Because,
That one, I'm gonna leave you on your own.
okay, all right, I just have to fill in the motion. This is just filling it in. Because it would. Well, I'm already deep into the woods.
You're down the rabbit hole.
I'm
Might
down
as
the
well
rabbit hole.
finish it
I've
out.
only got one more condition after
There
this.
you go.
Result in unnecessary hardship because it will be offset from the existing, either be offset from the existing driveway and look funky,
And I
that's an official word,
totally
or,
understand that.
or making it smaller would
Right.
would make it is not desirable. That the approval of such variance or modification thereof is consistent with the spirit of the zoning resolution and substantial justice shall be done thereby. Because it will, help me out on that one.
Look, it can,
'Cause
generally
it would- 'cause-
conforms to the
yeah.
neighborhood.
It's one accessory building and it will line up with the driveway.
Right.
Okay. Approval of the subject variance is subject to the owner's agreement to the following conditions. All required permits, zoning or otherwise be obtained pursuant to section 307.11 of the Genoa Township zoning resolution. The approved variance shall lapse, expire, and be null and void ab initio if required zoning permits are not obtained within 1 year of this motion of approval. Extensions to this variance may be requested pursuant to sections 307.11.a and b of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended. The Board of Zoning Appeals does grant the Genoa Township zoning inspector authority to extend this variance at their discretion, subject to the deadlines established within section 307.11.a of the Genoa Township zoning resolution as may be amended, and that this variance only applies to this specific accessory building. It does not allow them to build any other accessory buildings into the setback. Right? Yes.
Do I hear a second?
It was a motion to approve?
Yes. All right.
Well, seconding is just
In
approving the
is-
motion. We
here,
still have to vote on the
In the interest of
motion.
moving things along, I'll make the second.
Okay.
So,
So that's the motion
that's the motion.
tonight.
Further discussion? No? Because I can call the vote. Mr. Christian?
No.
Vote
Miss
no.
Yu? You vote no?
No, I vote no. Sorry.
Chair votes no. Application's denied. Thank you, gentlemen. And with no further business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Christian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned.